Hey everybody, it's Erik, co-founder, partner of Village Global, a network-driven venture firm. And this is Venture Stories, a podcast covering topics relating to tech and business with world-leading experts. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Village Global's Venture Stories. I'm here today joined by a very special guest, Portfolio CEO, Hikari Senju of Omneky. Hikari, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So Hikari, by way of introduction, why don't you introduce what is Omneky and how did you come to start it?
Sure, yeah. So I'm the founder of Omneky, which empowers small businesses to create and run personalized ads. In terms of how we came upon this idea, I used to run an education company called Quick Help that was acquired by Yup.com. I ran growth marketing there. And it was there where I was seeing how much money was being wasted at truly ineffective content throughout the industry. And so I started Omneky in 2018. Village was day zero investor. And we've basically been bootstrapping since then. We're profitable and we just passed $1 million in ARR.
Love it. So let's get into online advertising. Sure. What is the state of online advertising today?
Like small business advertising is getting democratized due to platforms like Shopify and Facebook and Omneky. So what Facebook does is it used to be that like you had to have connections and a ton of money to be able to advertise on television or radio. But now with Facebook, literally anybody can buy an ad. And that, comes with its associated set of problems that we can, dive into. But what it really does is that now any small business in America can, find their customers on Facebook and set up their shops on Shopify and can then create their ads, personalized ads with Omneky. So like, for example, Shopify has over 1 million merchants. They had, I think, $1.7 million in sales transacted every minute during last Black Friday. Over 8 million small businesses advertise on Facebook today. So it's, and COVID has only accelerated that trend.
Totally. And so talk more about how it's accelerated that trend and where are we going from here?
Yeah. So, basically people say that like COVID has, pulled us forward 10 years, right? In a couple of months. And so what this has resulted in is now there's more competition than ever before in terms of digital advertising because everybody is advertising online. And now we're seeing an interesting situation where small businesses, in particular, they're struggling to, get good returns on their ad spend because they're more sensitive in terms of return on ad spend than some of the bigger conglomerates, and so they are in some ways struggling. And this is kind of where Omneky comes in. Actually, is that Omneky will actually manage your ad accounts for free. It will create all your ads. It will do all the optimization. It will do all the management for free for the first 2 weeks, and then only charge a fraction of what a typical agency does. And so we're kind of coming in there to help small businesses, consistently deliver great results, and we take the risk up front.
Totally. So say more about what is the vision of Omneky? How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the role of advertising, right, is to effectively communicate your business value proposition to your customers, right? And different customers, want to be communicating in different ways. Some people like certain colors, some people like certain words, some people have certain cultural backgrounds, and they're going to trust messages that speak to them in the language that they're comfortable with. And what Omneky does is it will, uses state-of-the-art language models and image generation to create hundreds of thousands of ads and then run those ads at scale in terms of A/B testing and finding the right personalized content for every customer, so that these small businesses can find that personalized message that helps them connect with their customers and deliver results from their online advertising. These small businesses are largely being overlooked by the creative agencies of today because oftentimes they don't have the budget to warrant the attention of these big ad agencies. And so that's where we come in. We use automation, we use AI to lower the cost of creating content and then manage and take the risk upfront ourselves to guarantee results for them on Facebook initially, and then eventually other platforms.
To talk more about how this fits into the future of online advertising, where do you see it all going?
Yeah, so I think there's been basically two, massive like technological changes that have just revolutionized, especially over the past couple of years, online advertising. The first thing is, computer vision and machine learning. And what that's done is that's quantified design. So it used to be that design was, very intuitive. It was very difficult to kind of put into words or put into like data what effective design was. But the computer vision now quantifies all that. So that's on the personalization front. And then in terms of content generation, you have, obviously recently you had, OpenAI's GPT-3, it's generating, photorealistic content, copy. And so what that does is it lowers the cost of creating content as well. And now we're actually getting into a point where the cost of attention is possibly higher, more expensive than the cost of content. And so what happens when the cost of attention is higher than the cost of content is that you have this opportunity where actually you're compelled to create personalized content for every single person, for every moment of attention. And that's really where we come in, is that we create that content. We're like that creative engine that powers online advertising in terms of the creative messaging and the creative visuals. The vision is to really be the Netflix of advertising. So creative engine that generates personalized content at scale and helps small businesses everywhere more effectively communicate their value props to their customers.
Why isn't this something that Facebook could just do?
Yeah, so great question. I think there's definitely an opportunity for an independent design platform, design analytics, design, data-driven design platform. And I think the reason why there's an opportunity for independent platforms is partly due to antitrust pressures. So, Facebook is in some ways incentivized to build up their social media competitors like Pinterest and Snapchat. And actually, like Pinterest stock prices quadrupled over the past year. Snapchat stock prices doubled over the past year. You have new advertising platforms like television, right? So Roku, their stock prices tripled. Trade Desk, their stock prices quadrupled. Trade Desk and Roku both do television advertising. Meanwhile, like Google and Facebook stock prices have been relatively flat in comparison to the market over the past year. So if anything, it seems like these these publishing platforms have become more competitive. And there is really an opportunity for an independent, data-driven design platform like ours to kind of power the ad creative that is platform independent. And so I think that's really the opportunity.
Totally. And so ad tech in general has been a space that had some big wins, but then some, sort of a tougher period where VCs were a bit critical of it or backing out of it. And now as a space people are getting excited about it for certain reasons. Why don't you talk about that evolution?
Internet happened, right? And it's a wide open space in terms of a couple of companies dominating online advertising. And so for the early 2000s, right, a lot of ad tech energy, a lot of funding in ad tech, it became very clear, right, that Google and Facebook were going to dominate this space, and then ad tech had kind of dried out at that point because it seemed like Facebook and Google, the duopoly, they controlled 70% of all online advertising. But now it does seem like the trends are shifting because of antitrust pressures, right? That it does seem like, and especially now with the Democrats controlling the Senate and the Congress and the presidency, that there will be more scrutiny in terms of monopoly and so. In that sense, I think there is now more of an opportunity for other publishing platforms and also other advertising platforms to kind of make room for themselves, and that there might be another massive opportunity, frankly, for a new platform to, win in this new landscape, regulatory environment.
Yeah. So putting on your VC hat, what other, in addition to Omneky, like what other opportunities exist, or how should people be approaching this sector in the next few years?
Yeah. So, look, I think the trend in media has always been towards increased personalization, right? So you had first, the two broadcast channels, right? So you had CBS and NBC, just basically, dominate. And then you had more personalized cable channels like Fox and BET and CNN. And then you had social media, right? Where you had your friends, recommending you content like Facebook. And then now you have algorithmic content, right? You have an algorithm basically determining what you see, because an algorithm is better personalized than your friends. And you're seeing that with TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And so what we're seeing now is actually not just the delivery of that content being personalized, but the actual content itself being personalized, and you're seeing that now with in the opportunity here is because of AI just getting so good at generating really great quality content, right? So, I mean, you have this issue of deep fakes, things along those lines, and what the opportunity there is for as a storyteller, right? Whether you're telling a story on behalf of business or telling a story on behalf of just entertainment, is that you can really tell these personalized stories that really connect to everybody on a personalized level based on their background. And so on the entertainment side, for example, you see Netflix, right, investing billions of dollars, a month on their content, creating, content for every single, niche audience out there. It's only going to become more personalized as AI and, lowers the cost of creating content. And so Omneky's mission is to be, that for empowering small businesses.
Totally. Talk about what it's like building on a Facebook platform.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think what Facebook has done is it's democratized advertising, right? So again, as I said earlier, like it used to be that you had to be a big conglomerate or a big business or have a lot of connections to be able to advertise nationally. Right now, anybody can advertise nationally, and that has its own set of problems. And so you're kind of seeing that kind of sometimes manifest itself in in what we're seeing today. And so clearly that is, that is an issue that needs to be, resolved on Facebook side. I mean, content has been regulated, throughout history, right? Like you had a content board for radio, you had a content board for movies, right? In Hollywood, you had content board for television. There's no reason why the government can't set up a content board for social media. There should be, regulation into that, but it's just a problem that needs to be solved. It's not like an unsolvable problem. And I think, it's not something that should really necessarily be dependent on a private company to figure that out on themselves. I think, Facebook and, the government should work together to kind of figure that out together. And once that's figured out, then there is, this kind of issue related to fake news and all that, I think will get resolved. It is totally a solvable problem. It's just that, the focus needs to be there both on the regulatory side and once that's there, then I think, Facebook has the potential of being, the utility in terms of media communication in the 21st, at least in the first half of the 21st century. And I think that there's a massive opportunity building on that platform as an independent company.
How do you think the antitrust stuff will net out with Facebook?
To this point, right, there probably will be, either regulation on the content side, right? So, there is a technical challenge when content is being distributed algorithmically. How does one create regulations around that in terms of what kind of content, how do you kind of regulate code, right, in terms of an algorithm? But at the same time, it's not something that can't be done. You have seen more extreme versions of this being done in, more totalitarian places. And obviously, that is not the solution, but there's clearly a middle ground here in terms of having some guide rails in terms of what kind of content gets distributed, and so that needs to be done in terms of private companies work hand in hand with the government, like they've always done. Like media companies have always throughout history worked hand in hand with regulators for every new distribution platform in terms of content. Again, whether that was radio or television or movies or cinema. And so again, it's just, I think that's just a thing that's going to happen. And then I think, there's an interesting opportunity for new types of platforms as well, right? So you have VR and AR and there'll probably be new companies rising in those spaces. But yeah, I mean, probably just increased regulation, trust busting perhaps, but we'll see what happens. But it seems like something will be done, and it's not necessarily a bad thing for shareholders or for and probably a good thing for in terms of some of the things that we're seeing in the United States today.
Totally, no, that makes a lot of sense. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about OpenAI's GPT-3. What are your thoughts on that? And
so you had really awesome paper related to like variable binding and DALL-E this past week in terms of text to image. look, we're going to enter a world where soon, an AI will be able to generate movies from a personalized script, right? I mean, perhaps you can see a world where, everybody sees their own version of a personalized movie, where the basic core concepts of the story are consistent. So you can have that, you can kind of share that experience with your peers. But at the same time, certain, language things or certain visuals can be localized. You can also see a situation where, one interesting situation is perhaps, it used to be the advertising in content was separated, right? Like you'd have like the section for ads and you have the section for content, but maybe you actually might see more in-place advertising kind of being done dynamically. So you could have an ad exchange where you can actually bid for, your logo to be deep faked into the middle of a television, into the middle of like of a show, right, in the background or something, and or somebody says you have one of the characters mention your brand, in a very non-critical, in a story sense, non-critical way, but kind of again as a product placement, and it's actually less intrusive as an ad, right? I think one of the reasons why people don't like ads is because it tends to just be done so poorly, and it tends to be done so bad because it used to be optimized really just for clicks, but as advertising gets more sophisticated and as these media platforms become more advanced in terms of the technology that's available, you will see a lot less intrusive ads, and people might not even realize that these are advertisements, and that benefits small businesses, of course, because that means they can more effectively communicate their value props and find their customers, and that benefits consumers because they can enjoy the stories that are being told on these platforms without feeling like they're being interrupted every 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Totally. That's exciting to think about and see. How about maybe sort of gearing towards closing here? We talked about advertising a lot, and we talked about the intersection of advertising and media. Why don't you talk about just where is media going? More thoughts on the future of media?
Yeah. So, like what is media, right? Media is communication, right? Media is communication. So for people to experience the human condition, right? I mean, people ingest media to sometimes for cathartic reasons, right? That you watch a very sad story, so you can kind of cathartically kind of release those emotions internally, so you can experience things without actually having experienced those things, right? I mean, when we were all cave people, it used to be that you couldn't see traumatic emotional experiences unless you were like literally in front of that thing happening. Media offers an opportunity to experience those emotions and kind of learn from those emotions without actually having experienced that firsthand. And so technology just accelerates that trend of better storytelling. So maybe some people didn't get certain movies because they just didn't really vibe with their personalized, personal experience growing up, or from their culture or their geography. And what technology offers today is that opportunity so that everybody can kind of have that experience of being emotionally transported into a compelling story in the way that they want to be communicated, whether that is a book or in VR or an AR or an image or a video or a short video or a long video, whatever it is, the communication medium that they feel most comfortable in. They can experience those emotions and ultimately connect with other people in that kind of on that emotional level versus kind of the more surface detail level. And so I think that's the situation. I mean, obviously, there's a lot that needs to be figured out in terms of the distribution and the financing of this. Humans are storytellers, and humans will always and humans love experiencing stories, and so that's never going to change. And I think this is just going to empower more people to tell stories.
I think that's a great place to wrap. But before we do, is there anything else about Omneky yet that we didn't cover or that's worth mentioning, or want to give us a preview as to what's upcoming?
Yeah. So absolutely. So our goal, so we just profitably passed $1 million in ARR. By empowering small businesses on Facebook, our goal is to continue to accelerate this trend and continue to help small businesses. So if you're a small business, we do a free trial in terms of managing your ads and do all the work for you upfront for free. And so please, check out our website, omneky.com. And yeah, and I guess one more thing is, one question I get often is kind of like, why is it called Omneky? Why did you name the company Omneky? And so the reason why it's called Omneky is because when you say the name Omneky, you kind of ingest the name and you smile, right? So if you think of like a lot of the big brands like Nike or Gucci, all kind of ends with an E because it makes you kind of smile at the end. And if you smile, it associates these positive emotions to the brand, number one. Number two is it kind of, when you say the name, it has a swallowing motion. So if you think of words like banana or apple, right? When the consonants start from the tip of your tongue and end of the back of your throat. So again, another key feature a lot of big brands have is it has the hard k sound. So again, like Facebook or Nike, and that's because the k lodges itself in your throat and then really ends. It's almost again like you're ingesting that brand, and so it's really those two kind of linguistic features on top of the fact that it's an anagram of monkey and the domain name was available. And it's also kind of similar to, again, like the Omni key, Omni, like all like key as in like kind of knowing. And so there's that element as well. So yeah, that's kind of the mission here, is to help, small businesses emotionally connect with the perfect creative for all the different customers that they're connecting with.
And that is a very timely yet also timeless timeless value proposition. Hikari, we're stoked to be early supporters of Omneky and continued supporters. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a great episode.
Thank you, Erik.
If you're an early stage entrepreneur, we'd love to hear from you. Check us out at villageglobal.vc.